They're playing an ice cream truck. It's a small world after all, but damn. Let me talk about one thing about the pastor that had a kid with a stripper. All right, I know this pastor, right? Before he became a pastor, he was a Catholic priest before he became a pastor. All right, they're in the news about something about this pastor. About Pastor David. Alright, this pastor was wrongfully accused, and the former stripper was, choking him. I think he has child custody. Pastor David Dueppen. I know Pastor David Dueppen because I think he fled the country with his kid. He was framed. I think he was framed that he abused that stripper. Pastor David, I think he left the church. Remember, Father, that he's an Episcopalian priest now. I mean, Father Cute, Alberto Cute, he's in the Episcopal Church, Anglican Church. What it is? Well, it's what it is. Pastor David. What is it with this? It's okay. Do anybody who knows any pastor that had a kid with a stripper? I know a pastor that had a kid with a stripper. Yes, I know Pastor David, because he is not in the United States anymore. He is not in the U.S. David Dueppen, once a former assistant priest at St. Maximilian Kolbe, former assistant priest at Mother of Our Redeemer, could be a pastor at a church in Japan. Pastor David. This pastor, people watching in Japan have no English. This pastor, he might doing something. Look at this for a minute. If the government don't do anything over there in the Fukushima area, then Pastor David has done something. Pastor David might have his first kid with a stripper. Pastor David is married. Pastor David is married to a Japanese girl. That's what happened with Pastor David Dueppen. And I tell you about Pastor David. If anybody would see about Pastor David Dueppen, I mean Pastor David Dueppen, who might knows who's gonna go to his church. I think it was bad news that ruined his reputation. I know he was a priest here in Miami, Florida. Here in South Florida, but he's a pastor in Fukuoka. And then where this Pastor David is? Pastor David is I think he had a better reputation for Pastor David. I think Pastor David has a child with his wife, with his Japanese wife. Pastor David is helping out to reach the people. I think he's doing the cleanup over there, or doing donations, and have people in his church cleaning up all the mess in Fukushima. Pastor David, may I tell you, Pastor David is right there. Pastor David Dueppen might be over there. Anybody could know. I don't know if this woman from town in Fukushima, the mayor, who is a Canadian, go to Pastor David's church. Pastor David Dueppen's church. I don't know what his church might be called, but Pastor David Dueppen, Pastor David Dueppen might come here. He might do a video on YouTube. I never heard about Pastor David Dueppen. That's what I mean. There'll be some kind of miracles to be called about Pastor David Dueppen in the area where he pastors his church. This pastor, who was a former priest of the Catholic Church, could appear as an interview in one of those channels from these vloggers that I know 2 of them, maybe 3 of them, because one has destroyed her channel. I think, who might convince me to go to David's church? This pastor, Pastor David Dueppen, might be convincing others where he could pastor his church, where he could preaching the word. Same thing, but he's not Catholic. He's a pastor. Pastor David Dueppen have a special interview in the Kayla's channel. Pastor David Dueppen might have a special interview. And even Random Yoko's channel. Why? Because he's there. He's there in their area. He's over there. Interview with Pastor David Dueppen. Tell him about his life. What else he's going to do? Maybe about give me a flake man. He lives in Japan also, but they were talking about Pastor David Dueppen. Pastor David Dueppen reputation. David Dueppen, the former Father David Dueppen, former Catholic priest of Miami, Florida, of South Florida, of the Archdiocese of Miami, former priest of St. Maximilian Kolbe, former priest of Mother of our Redeemer, but now pastor at some church in Fukuoka, Japan, having a special interview about the pastor. I know what it is. This special interview, if the guy from Give Me a Flake Man, Victor, if Victor could interview Pastor David Dueppen of how Pastor David Dueppen's life in Japan might be. So if Pastor David Dueppen is watching this, hey Pastor David, I remember you. I remember you guys doing confession. I remember you when you were a priest. But now I say congratulations. I hope you have custody in your kid. Enjoy your HAPA kid that you have with your beautiful Japanese wife and your life in Japan. So thank you, Pastor David Dueppen, for everything you have done here. And someday we are gonna see you, Pastor David Dueppen, in one of these J-Vlogger channels. And Give Me a Flake Man channel, or Give Me a Break Man channel, about Pastor David Dueppen's life. How his life changed in Japan. And maybe, probably Random Yoko channels. This is what I'm saying. Thank you, Pastor David Dueppen, for everything that he has gone. He have been with this whore. Yeah, this worthless woman that wrongfully has accused you. She might be there in only a dollar store. I mean, she might be over there being homeless. Forget about that woman, Pastor David Dueppen. Sayonara. Goodbye.